Okay, so I just watched The Master Reborn's rant on the subject of Sarah Jane Adventures versus Torchwood. Although I personally didn't think the rant was very well done, the music was a little bit obtrusive. You couldn't really hear what he was saying, and I don't think it was particularly well thought out. He did raise an interesting question. Which series is better? If you're loyal / crazy enough to have watched my reviews, you'll know that I rate the Sarah Jane Adventures very highly. It's a well-constructed, well-written spin-off with realistic characters and an appeal that stretched far beyond its target audience. But despite this, I think it's really unfair to say that Torchwood was a bad series. It's been on the receiving end of a lot of criticism. Some of it is legitimate. But you know, sometimes I think people are just too easily convinced by bad reviews. Okay, just think about the first time you watched Torchwood, before you watched the rants and heard what the professionals have to say. If you're still thinking, yeah, it was crap, fine. If you can justify why you're thinking that, I'm not going to try and argue with you. Well, I will, but I'm not going to say you're wrong. But if you're starting to doubt yourself and wonder whether it was so bad after all, then I think you and I are kindred. And also, I don't think I should ever use the phrase kindred spirits again. That's not to say that there wasn't a load of rubbish in Torchwood. Continuity and character development was all over the place. I mean, one minute, Yanto's all angsty emo, stomach full of rats, and the next he's propositioning Jack with a stopwatch. Unless there was a severe time gap between those two episodes, I'm thinking that someone didn't really think that through. As the Master Reborn rightfully pointed out, the sex episode was just rubbish. In my opinion, it was basically an excuse to broadcast porn at 9 o'clock and call it television. The producers and writers definitely set out to show that Torchwood was more grown up than Doctor Who, and in the process made themselves look like children. I'd like to say that one series is better than the other, but the thing is, comparing SJA and Torchwood isn't like comparing, say, Buffy and Angel. Torchwood is a completely different animal to its younger relative, and for that reason, I don't think it's possible to compare them properly. Of course, we can all have one we prefer, and personally I prefer Torchwood. Despite its faults, and despite the fact that Gwen drives me up the wall, I think the acting overall is of a much higher standard. And I think the pace of it is better than SJA, and sometimes I think the pace of it is better than Doctor Who. Those two shows often feel a little like they're trying to cram too much adventure into too small a space. Torchwood is fast enough to be interesting, but slow enough so that it doesn't zoom past before you notice it, like, I don't know, an arrow shot from Robin Hood's bow. Whoosh! I'm looking forward to seeing the second series of the Sarah Jane Adventures, but I can't wait for Series 2 of Torchwood. And that's the difference.